When that life force is allowed to be released inside of the vagina, it is transformed into a human being with proper. This vital fluid of life cannot be replicated by anything because of its power. There is no substitute for a man's seed. We believe that we have a good understanding of sperm and that it consists of nothing more than a collection of vitamins, minerals, glucose, and proteins along with the sword. If this is the case, then with all of the science that we have available to us today, why is it that we cannot manufacture human sperm in the laboratory? Bear in mind that we are capable of creating an artificial womb in a test tube and nursing babies through it, but we are unable to do the same with seeds. The body of a man who is retaining sends a signal to his brain to tell it to reabsorb the sperm. The body has the impression that the host in his current form is unable to donate semen. The process of reabsorption allows the host to regain its vitality. The reabsorption begins the process of upgrading the skin, the hair on the prefrontal cortex, the overall fluid energy, and the regulation of hormones, which in turn improves the host both physically and mentally. However, these improvements are still constrained by the genetic and evolutionary parameters of the host. This unused energy can manifest itself in a variety of ways. It makes itself known through charisma, wit, and courage, physical audacity, and daring. In my experience, in addition to many other things, it is like being on a high nonstop. I used to drink a double shot of espresso every day. When I had coffee, everyone else, including weaker men, noticed that there was a significant difference in the energy level between you and them. They become extremely inquisitive and are drawn to the mysterious energy bubble that surrounds you in the hope of discovering your trade secret. They congregate around you and follow you wherever you go. Do you want your relationship to reciprocate your actions, in which case you should inquire about your workout routine and the foods you eat to find out what they are? My connection to myself has become much stronger over the past few years. Without a doubt, I have ceased both the practice of talking about my intentions and the process of making secret plans for myself. The best part, however, is carrying out these plans as intended. If I am unable to keep even my own secrets, then I cannot reasonably expect others to do so either. So I've learned to keep my mouth shut and focus on becoming a man of action instead. Allow you to judge my actions based on. However, it does have some unintended consequences. I have trained myself to feel at ease during awkward pauses in a conversation, and as a result, I do not attempt to restart it. In most cases, this causes the other party to want to talk to me more and continue the conversation. My girlfriend's doctor recommended that she abstain from sexual activity for a while because she has been experiencing some health problems. Despite the fact that we haven't had any sexual encounters in a while, the quality of my relationship has vastly improved, and not just my girlfriend, but also other women have begun to respect me more. The best part is that I do not necessarily feel good or bad at this moment. What it is cannot be changed. Regarding the treatment and validation that SR brings in general, I have no strong feelings one way or the other. I no longer feel as though I am dependent on my relationship in the same way that I did before. I used to feel the need to vent my frustrations to Misso and share my joy when things were going well. Instead of me engaging in self-care, my girlfriend is the one who relays all of this information to me while I listen. I have begun looking after myself more carefully, and with an unreal sense of urgency, I would put off doing certain things, like taking cold showers or flossing my teeth and so on. Now I just do it without thinking about how painful it will be, like taking a shower in the freezing cold. Won't kill me and make me feel 1,000 times better. I have noticed an overall increase in my level of self-concern, which is sufficient justification for me to plunge in and push through the initial few shivers. Love for oneself was likely the very first romantic attachment you made when you entered this world. Wasn't as with your body. Your primary relationship is with your body first and everyone else comes second. Second, your mental and physical well-being have a greater right to your love than anyone else does. Hold it in the highest regard possible and give it your complete focus and consideration at all times. It is both your best friend and your partner for life, and the only way for you to gain exposure to the outside world is through it. Therefore, you should pay attention to the things that you put into your body. In addition to keeping your sperm, you should avoid eating processed food. Be sure to read the labels. Put an end to eating any and all added sugar. Acquaint yourself with all of the negative ingredients works. Eat vegetables. The food industry is concerned about profits and, as a result, maintaining customer loyalty. Dopamine hits are only possible with a concoction of a certain ratio of sugar and fat, which is typically found when certain sauces and cheeses are combined, which is very unhealthy in the long term. The only way customers are coming back is if the food product releases a large hit of dopamine in their bodies. Even the healthier options have an excessive amount of sugar and a high ratio of fat in order to keep you coming back for more. They are aware that dopamine is the factor that controls. The consumer is unable to control their cravings for the product even though they are aware that it is harmful to their health. They are stuck in an endless loop of reliving the past. The recollection of the moment when they received their very first hit of dopamine from these foods. Even sugar-free sauces contain a higher sodium content to make up for their diminished flavor, which is just as unhealthy as using sugar. The food industry does not give a rat's behind about the health of the people who buy its products, because first you pay for the slow poison and then to the hospitals for those who are affected by it. The economy is actually helped by it. Obesity is the leading cause of death in the NA, accounting for the majority of fatalities. There is no doubt that other nations will follow suit as the quick service restaurant business continues to expand. When you turn 4 to 5, you will only be able to consume a quarter of the variety of food that you were previously capable of eating. This limitation will take effect immediately. Now, in another decade, it will be 6.5% of the variety that you could initially consume when you were an older person. It is your physical self that is on your side, and you can rely on it to help you build muscle, so make sure you cherish it. It is your physical self that is on your side, and you can rely on it to help you build muscle, so make sure you cherish it. I skipped working out for almost 4 to 5 minutes, due to the fact that the gyms were closed. During this unfortunate gap in my diet, I did not consume enough protein, but yesterday, I discovered that my push lifts have increased by 150% compared to what I usually do while releasing, and that I can perform even more repetitions than I could before. I was literally astounded by these results. I thought I had a pretty good understanding of how the process of muscle growth works after reading a lot about it. However, it turns out that I was completely wrong. I was anticipating a decrease in my strength as a result of my exercise routine. Instead, I am breaking my personal record (PR) for things like pre-senior workouts through consistency. My failure on the overhead military press occurred when I had 70 pounds on senior MEO. HP weighed 70 pounds, and I most certainly could have completed additional sets. Yes, I completed 6 sets because I was curious to see when I would reach my limit. However, I did not do so, and I was forced to stop because I was running out of time. The shoulders are the weakest muscle group in my body, but I still had enough strength to spare. I can only speculate as to how the strength in my legs may have been affected earlier on. I believe that the majority of senior benefits were due to psychological shifts. My viewpoint has been profoundly altered as a result of this, and I now believe that statement is not accurate. The majority of seniors' work is done on a physical level. This is not a harmless sugar pill. The development of fat and muscle both require senior status. Even more important than a protein shake is having a heightened awareness. It would have made more sense for me to put this one first. Your body is what draws people's attention. The ability of human beings to pay attention is the single most important factor that contributes to their position at the pinnacle of the survival pyramid. And at the very top of the food chain, humans have nothing going for them besides their ability to think logically and emotionally independently of one another. I, for one, am thankful that I was born as a human rather than some other species. As a man, I feel fortunate. I do not lose vitamins, minerals, life, blood like what women give themselves every month. This life force exits the bodies of all females in a painful manner and without their consent. We are distinct in that regard, despite the fact that she is powerless to change the situation. We have the ability to fight through the desire and reabsorb that life within us. We human beings have the remarkable ability to separate our thinking process from our emotional experiences. It's common practice to refer to thoughts that are overflowing with feelings as instincts, impulses, instincts, or just one, simple and superficial in nature. If I had to give an analogy to explain the difference, I'd say that impulses, brute force, and critical thinking are similar to surgical procedures. The only kind of thought that has the potential to be profound, logical, complicated, intelligent, and wise is one that is devoid of emotion. Without having to engage in analytical reasoning, we are able to accomplish difficult tasks and maintain our position at the pinnacle of the food chain thanks to our capacity for indifferent thinking. We are no different from any other animal that lives Even within the human race, we can see this disparity in the food chain, which includes people who act on impulse, drug dealers, criminals, and so on and so forth. They are located at the very bottom of the hierarchy of human beings. People with highly developed intellectual capabilities, such as Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Einstein, Nikola Tesla, and others who are not impulsive or animalistic, sit near the top of the hierarchy. Examples include Elon Musk and Steve Jobs. People in this situation do not require a daily dose of motivation. The majority of people have an emotional response to motivational videos and quotes because they are motivated intellectually through internal dialogue rather than from their ideas or from their emotions. This means that intellectual motivation is not the same thing as emotional motivation. Additionally, you cannot rely on your feelings in any way. It's impossible for me to picture Steve Jobs or Elon Musk engaging in violently feminist masturbation 6 times a day. The same process was used when developing the concept of the smartphone or the electric vehicle. Can you see how these guys have distanced their feelings from their thoughts? Their urges seem to have no control over them. Can you see that? Consequently, they took those actions. The point I'm trying to make is that meditation cultivates stoicism and difference within you. Permit me to begin by outlining the steps involved in the meditation process. Scientifically speaking, you sit down and do nothing but watch your own breath, not even thinking. When you engage in a monotasking activity such as breath watching, sooner or later, you find that you are occupied with certain emotional thoughts of the past or worries about the future. This happens because you have practiced being alert and conscious of your efforts. You continue to have no interest in these things. You train yourself to feel indifferent toward any emotional thoughts that come up in the space of your attention. When you have a neutral attitude toward the thought of someone or something, you will eventually develop that same attitude toward the thing or person that is the subject of your thoughts. Before physically relapsing, one needs to have this kind of willpower. You experienced a mental relapse. First, willpower can be defined as the ability to reason with oneself in order to prevent oneself from engaging in a destructive, unconscious, recurring, emotional action or impulse. This conversation typically takes place some time before the actual physical relapse, and it takes place after the mental relapse. The ability to prevail rationally over emotional impulses is referred to as willpower. Wisdom can be defined as the achievement of long-term goals at the expense of short-term pleasure. Your ability to think becomes more perceptive, intuitive, and superior to that of the average Joe as you continue to meditate. Of course, a person who is not on senior will not be able to meditate because they will be carried away by the emotional. You need at least 2 weeks of retention if you have brain fog, and you can only focus on it for 2 seconds at a time, if not even more, in order to properly be alert and have the energy to stick to the monotasking of watching the breath and not getting distracted from it. For my part, I also practice increasing my attentiveness as well as my empathy and loving kindness. Through the practice of meditation, we can develop enormous compassion and love for one another. Giving to others, as opposed to other animals, is one way to have. Donating money also counts. Meditation has been shown to change the physical makeup of the brain, as well as to raise one's intelligence level tremendously. The New York Times does not view empathy as a sign of weakness. Never Split the Difference is the title of Chris Bossi's best-selling book. He discusses a number of different hostage situations and negotiations that took place within the United States in the past. These were only possible because of the empathy training that the FBI received. However, having empathy for another person does not imply that you agree with their ideology. It merely indicates that you comprehend their predicament by visualizing it from their point of view through the use of personification.